I thought I heard something. So as you guys know, recently I was just interested in researching about that Mavic Mini to see whether or not you could technically fly wherever you want, so to speak, because regulation wise here in Canada, technically you could, basically within common sense, as long as you're safe and all that. But then it made me wonder, because DJI does have that geofence and stuff that stops you from flying in certain places, so would that actually be the case for this as well? And as you guys know, I tried to test it out where they demonstrated it in store, where I assumed at first it's going to be right in the airport zone, but in terms of our red zone, it just missed the mark by like maybe a block or so. I was even reading some of your comments too, where some of you were saying, hey, you're surprised that it flies like in this area and so forth, like even though there's a helipad and all that. And I think there's actually some misconceptions in terms of how this geofence works, so I thought it'd be interesting to research. And from what I read, I don't think it's actually very good in terms of the Mavic Mini at this point in terms of flying in, like, say, a red zone, because you actually can't and there's no way around it, which is a little weird. So just for some examples for people to understand a little better, usually in terms of the airspace, there's things like restricted, unrestricted, controlled, and uncontrolled airspace. So generally speaking, let's just use the easiest way to explain this. Uncontrolled airspace is you can fly wherever you want, okay? It's anything goes pretty much, like obviously be safe. Whereas things like a controlled airspace, basically you normally need things like permission. There could be airplanes flying around. That could be something like an airport, for example, and you need permission to fly there. So using the example here in Canada, when you look at the map, you can see pretty much like, holy cow, look at the whole Vancouver area here. It's pretty much a controlled airspace. Like you can't fly anywhere unless you get permission. So that's why when I read some comments, people were surprised that they could fly in certain areas. Essentially, DJI has their own database, and basically it's their geofence, or they call it fly safe, and you'd have to check their map actually. So just as an example here, you saw how much of the Vancouver area is basically a no-fly zone essentially, or a controlled airspace. Now if you look at the DJI map here, what is this? Like everything is clear, correct? Like, hey, how come you can fly here all of a sudden? Because as you can see in DJI's database, they essentially determine, okay, there's an airport here potentially, so let's make some kind of radius around here. So as you can see, like for the Vancouver airport, there's basically red marks everywhere. So technically, if you brought your drone there, your drone would get denied takeoff. To unlock this, you essentially have to get permission, like from here, from the NAV Canada, and then you email, for example, DJI, your permission. As you can see, there's a huge difference in terms of where the official maps, like in your own country, would say, hey, you can't fly here, versus the DJI one. This is why many times a lot of people, they get in trouble. Like, let's just say, example, like a tourist, they come here with their drone, they fly it, and they assume they're doing nothing wrong because they say, hey, the app allows you to take off. But unfortunately, that's not the case in a lot of situations. A perfect example of this is how some of you may remember just a few months ago, where while I was walking around, all of a sudden I saw this guy flying a Mavic 2 right on the sidewalk next to busy people and everything. He's in the controlled airspace. And I just asked him, I'm curious, like, did you have things like a special flights operation certificate to fly it here? And then at first he's like, no, nothing. So I was like, okay, like I'm just curious, like, did he not know that he's flying in like the controlled airspace, for example? But his answer to me afterwards, when I told him, hey, you technically can't fly here like the way he's doing it, he's like, no, I can, because the app would stop me if he couldn't. So that's an example where that app isn't updated. So technically, for people who are kind of like shocked, hey, I'm surprised like the Mavic Mini can fly in this zone, you can technically do that with any of their drones as long as they don't mark it, for example, red within their database. So hopefully that clears that part up for people who were confused about that. But then the interesting thing is, well, how do you unlock this thing? That was what I was interested in. Because here in Canada anyways, this drone is considered as a toy, and normally to unlock this, you need permission from things like the NAV Canada, which I actually did today actually, to get approval from the Airspace and all that. And then afterwards, you're supposed to give it to DJI. But if they treat it as a toy and all that, you can't get technically approval, then how do you do this? Well, I guess the unfortunate thing is, while I was researching, apparently DJI even says there's no way to unlock that drone at the moment if you're in a restricted zone, which is kind of shocking actually. You can see on their official forums, there's basically people who posted the emails from DJI's customer support because they're asking like, hey, I'm in a restricted space apparently and I can't fly, what can I do? And then this guy's email, it shows here, it says, thank you for your email and sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. Kindly note that the GeoZone is designed to provide some general protection to sensitive locations around the world, so we can't disable it for you. We appreciate your kind understanding. And another one, thank you for your support in Mavic Mini. We will launch a new version of the aircraft firmware and DJI Fly app in late December to support unlock the no-fly zone. Please pay attention to official announcement. Please submit the unlocking request at the time. Thank you for your understanding and support. If you have any further questions, please contact us. We're always here to help. Thanks for supporting DJI, basically their technical support. So you're basically out of luck right now. If you're inside a restricted zone and you're basically flying this thing, you can't unlock it. It's basically a useless drone. To me, that's really surprising why you would actually release your product out like that when you don't have a solution for that. And to basically clarify, it doesn't matter if you're indoors. Like here, technically, law-wise, indoors, you can basically fly wherever you want, however you want. There's no regulations. But with this thing, like the Geofence and stuff, it doesn't know if you're indoors or outdoors, so you're still stuck. So imagine someone opening it as a present and then all of a sudden like, hey, I still can't fly this like inside. Kind of makes you wonder why they rushed this out so fast. Were they just trying to capitalize on things like the Black Friday and Christmas holiday shopping? Were they trying to get it out as fast as possible to, I guess, prevent people from buying competitor products or something like that? Who knows? I'm just surprised any company would actually do that personally. Now they do say, like in the email, they're going to release a fix, so to speak, and a different app and solution basically in late December. But until then, that's something to think about. Because I know there's some of you that say you're on the fence, so maybe that's a factor as well. I guess it's kind of funny too how there wasn't actually one reviewer that I know of that actually went through stuff like that, like making sure you can actually fly in the restricted zones and all that. That's one of the first things even I talked about. How about for everyone who's bought it so far? Are you guys happy with it? Disappointed? Any buyer's remorse? Or did it basically live up to all your expectations? I think here in Canada, it's still a good choice for like a beginner possibly, like if you just want to get started, so to speak. It is a little bit on the expensive side, I think personally still, but I guess it's a lot cheaper than having to go through all that testing and so forth, like what I had to go through for the advance, if you just want to like try it out and get some quick shots. It's definitely not something you want to do professionally though, I would say. Like if I was to have something like that, it'd be more for emergency reasons, so to speak. Like, holy cow, life event here. You need to fly over all these crowds of people and all that to capture it. Then you'd bring something out like that. Just because of the way it is here in Canada, it just takes forever to get it approved at the moment, to my understanding. Oh hey, I think I woke up my buddy here when I had the drone on. How you doing, bud? Not even afraid of the drone. You want to fly this thing? What are you doing, bud? Okay, see you later. Can't fit in there, unfortunately. Alright, see you guys later.